Okay, well we'll get started. Thanks everyone for attending. I'm Lindsay Herbert. I'm head of digital marketing at Precedent. We are a digital agency. And Louise?
I'm Louise Casella and I'm Director of Strategic Development at Cardiff University. Strange title. It actually means I look after a lot of the marketing, development, communication, planning, strategy, services. I say I get all the fun bits, the bits that take the university forward.
And speaking of strange titles, we've given ourselves a lot to live up to, we realize with the title of this presentation. But what we mean by the digital campaign that changed everything is that it's the first time in Precedent's history in our work with the education sector that a digital campaign has actually led an entire undergraduate campaign for a university, especially one as prestigious as Cardiff University. So what we're going to do today is talk you through the campaign, but rather than just talking about it as a case study, we wanted to present it as a model because we really do believe that digital has the power to lead these campaigns. It's got the agility and the flexibility to meet the needs of the sector and also to use all the different resources that you've got available to you within your own institutions. And just to excuse the camera in the center there, this is also a preview talk. Because we've been invited to present Thrive at the American Marketing Association Symposium in New Orleans in November. So we're going to be curious to get your reaction, your feedback to what you see here today, and then we can test it out on the ice when we get down to New Orleans in November. But first, starting things off, setting the scene. So it's 2011. Cardiff University have invited myself and a group of other agencies to come in and pitch for an undergraduate recruitment marketing campaign, domestic undergraduate recruitment. But the question is, how do you market to this or to this? Because this was exactly what was happening the week that we went in to go for the pitch. And the sentiment in the sector was one of fear, of not knowing, behind this angry mob of students, is there still that group of top students who want a good education, who value a good education? How do we reach them? How do we cut through this? When this is what's happening on our doorstep, and this is all that the media are talking about, how do you market to the people who are standing behind or maybe even amongst this crowd?
I mean, you all know it, but it was the tuition fee landscape changing at this time. And alongside that, the AAB Plus proposition in England, and we're sat in Wales. And things there were slightly different, but we knew we had to do something different and something new if we were going to move ahead. Because the model for tuition fees in Wales depended on lots of English students still coming into Wales, so that the Welsh government would pay for the Welsh students going out to England. So we needed to keep that flux going on to ensure that we had money flowing into the university. We also knew what everybody else was about to do. We're all about to up our undergraduate marketing game, and that's where we had to move. So we figured that probably we had a huge amount to lose if we didn't do something. We knew that we were in a position where it was a kind of now or never moment of changing what we do. So we had attitudes beginning to develop about a separation of England from Wales in recruitment terms, and students actually asked, do I have to learn Welsh if I come to Cardiff? No, is the answer to that very quickly. But we needed to change those attitudes, and we were aware, for example, Bristol, 600 more students, they'd already declared that was their policy. All our contacts said Bristol, Birmingham, others, looking across the border to South Wales, nice ground to go finding your wiping access students in as well. Come and take them to South Wales. They'll come, and what's more, they'll come for £3,300 fees, not £9,000 fees, because the Welsh government's going to pay the difference. So we knew we had to step up our game to get in there.
Exactly, and and as we saw from the previous slides, it didn't feel like we were gearing up for a marketing campaign. We felt like we were gearing up for battle. We knew that the old strategies, the old ways of approaching things, they weren't going to work, and we had to be thinking in terms of tactics, in terms of what the competition are doing, especially because we were so late out of the gate starting anything. It took a long time to get approval and for budgets to be approved, and so in presenting the campaign to you, I'm going to use the art of war as an analogy, because that is how it felt when we were putting all the plans together. As we say in the art of war, strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. And so in talking you through the campaign, I'm going to use the 5 elements from the art of war. So talking about the mission, the climate, the ground, the leadership, and the method that was adopted by the Thrive campaign to help put the campaign into context and how we put it together, but also hopefully so that you'll be able to take some of the information and apply it within your own institutions and how you can start looking at planning your own campaigns, whether it's for recruitment, for fundraising, what have you. But starting out with the mission.
The mission that we set for the campaign was to maintain our AAB plus percentage of students coming in, maintain and grow if possible, but it was about maintaining in the face of competition. And it was about achieving an application to conversion rate on our undergraduates at a certain level that we knew what we needed. So that was the open mission of the campaign, and that's what we sold it on. But behind that sat a number of objectives for me as a senior leader in the university. So as I said to you earlier, I'm responsible for a number of functions within the university, and I wanted to create some change in attitude and change in the way we did things, and using the campaign a bit to do that. And I didn't say that too publicly at the time, because I also didn't want to build resistance to it.
Yeah, or to us.
No, this is my agenda behind, which was I wanted to move from traditional methods to a more digital approach. I wanted to move from a more corporate speak to a more student-led speak. We knew, that was something we wanted to get to. Particularly wanted to tackle this issue about dispersed marketing out in our academic schools and kind of bringing them back in to a central voice, but not a corporate voice. So that balance between, come in and work with us, we can help you. You don't have to do it all on your own. And wanted to make it a very professional, informed campaign that we were taking on. Mm-hmm. So, we wanted him, right? This kind of student. We wanted the kind of Fredericks of this world with their probably 4 A stars at A level, High Sheriff's Award, etc. But we also wanted people like this, and we had to reflect as a part of our campaign that there's a very strong social justice element to funding for higher education in Wales. We have to answer to that, and we could not ignore part of the student market simply to chase A stars and A's from more traditionally into HE backgrounds. So that was part of what we were looking for as well, that spread of students.
Exactly, and I think from Precedent's perspective, what we took from this was, what do these 2 students have in common? They're both ambitious, they're both bright, they're both curious and creative, and they have big ideas of what they want to do with the world and what they want to do with themselves. And those are the attributes that we started to build on when we were planning the campaign and how we were going to lure those students to participate in the different campaign activities. The next element was the climate. So what was the competitive landscape at the time? What was the behavior of the target users? Well, Louise touched on it a little bit in that the university had needed English students to come to Wales to study in Wales to make up numbers, but what we were seeing at the time were English universities trying to poach the top Welsh students, because they realized that the Welsh students were being partially subsidized by the Welsh government, which meant that if they went and studied over in England, then the English universities weren't going to have to use as much of their bursary and scholarship funding to keep those students. So that's what we were seeing, was an increased activity in the competition locally and targeting those top students. And in terms of the behavior of the target users, well, we've seen them already in terms of the protest sign and the feeling that hopelessness and despair. But we also did know that there were those pockets of students behind, the ones, the girl holding up her award-winning photograph and the boy with the certificate. Those were in that group too. But in terms of their behavior and how they were acting, some of them were acting like this. But even the ones who weren't acting like this, they kind of had their fill of marketing speak and being talked down to by people who are saying, if you're lucky enough, you can come and study with us. If you're privileged enough, you can come to our institution, and we're going to do as little as possible to attract you. But what we will do is we'll show you nice glossy, friendly pictures of students, and we'll pretend that it's these guys talking to you, but actually it's a bunch of 30-year-old marketers behind the scenes. And we knew that the behavior of the target audience at that time, this wasn't going to work. And when we started working with Cardiff University, that's essentially what they had. I mean, they even had the same green matching notebooks that they're carrying. And so if these aren't real students, if those kids in front of that white background aren't real students, what do real students actually look like? Well, they look like this. And this is hard to put on a page that looks like that. Especially when it's a Russell Group University, you still have that element of prestige to live up to. And so how do you get this kind of person to be able to communicate to the prospective students when we know for a fact that with the behavior of those groups, I mean, they're using sites like the Student Room, they're using Facebook and Twitter and that sort of thing, but they're not using the Student Room or Facebook and Twitter to talk to marketers like me. They're using it to talk to people who look like this. So it's, the campaign disappeared. Uh-oh. Everyone stay really still. Oh, okay. So the objective of the campaign became, how do we marry this with this in an environment that the university can have some sway in and some control, and to show those students what is available and what's out there, but without sounding like a bunch of marketers pretending to be 17-year-olds.
So, the ground we've been working with, and where we were ourselves, was, we're a select institution. We've been quite, if you're lucky enough and you've got good grades, you can come to Cardiff, kind of approach. And we've done some very good traditional work, great work out in schools, great schools liaison programme, good contacts out there, and that had delivered numbers. We've been getting our numbers, we've been getting a rise in quality of numbers. So, part of the decisions I'd had to make with shrinking resource was actually not to have put a lot more resource into student recruitment over the previous 5-6 years. I had people coming to me saying, I need more, and I'd had to say, actually, I need to develop alumni at the moment, we need to put money in there, and I need to put money in there. So I had not been putting resource into student recruitment. They've been doing a good job, they've been delivering, but that was it. But everything was changing. We could see all of that going on, and the other thing that was changing was the use of social media and the presence of this age group on social media. So, Open Day's been great, our academic schools were doing their own thing, and I expect a lot of you recognise that you're trying to run something centrally, and meanwhile the business schools do something great over here. The science is doing something not quite so great over there, and you've got all these different bits going on, and we wanted to see if we could bring that together. So we had a very restrictive web presence in a sense, in that what we were doing was fine, but you get below that slide, which is obviously corporate speak, and there's lots more very, very dense text, lots of information, us talking in kind of what I call registry speak to students who are about to come in, and we had very little flexibility to work with that. So that was the ground.
And so, getting to the leadership, how will the campaign be managed? Who will plan it? Who will carry out the different actions? And that's where Precedent came in. We took all of this information about the state of the sector, about the audiences, and we came in and we pitched an idea. And this is the cover of the original document, and we called the campaign Bait for Smart People. So that was kind of the behind-the-scenes title of Thrive. Because we realized that if we wanted to capture the imagination and the ambitious spirits of those smart students, we had to present them with something that would intrigue them, something that would allow them to self-select and to test themselves and to join that community voluntarily and to feel like it actually is a community rather than just some, send us your details and you might win an iPad sort of thing. And so we started with this as a concept, and from there we started to flesh out ideas. And